He opened his eyes to a world that felt unfamiliar, the sterile white ceiling, the faint hum of machines, the cold stillness of a hospital room. His head throbbed, memories flickering like shattered glass, her voice, her laughter, the sound of screeching tires. And then, silence. "Sir, you're awake," the nurse whispered softly. But before he could ask where she was, a small voice broke through the quiet. "Daddy." He turned. A little girl stood at the door, clutching a faded photo, his photo, and smiling like she'd waited her whole life for this moment. Her eyes were hers. The woman he once loved had vanished 3 years ago after that accident. Now, standing before him was living proof of everything he lost and everything he didn't know he still had. The night it happened, the city was drowning in rain, roads shimmered under the neon lights, and his car sliced through the storm like a silver arrow. Ethan Reed, 32, CEO of one of New York's fastest-growing companies, had built an empire out of precision. Every meeting, every contract, every heartbeat of his schedule ran on his command. Except her. Leela Hart had always been his one variable, the chaos he could never quite control. She was the journalist who once challenged him in a live interview, questioning his ruthless business ethics. He'd hated her words that night, but he couldn't forget her eyes, the way they burned with conviction, not fear. What began as arguments turned into long phone calls. What began as rivalry became love. They were opposites, yet inseparable. She taught him to feel, he taught her to dream bigger. They were planning a future, until that night. Ethan's phone buzzed relentlessly. A last-minute investor deal, the kind that could make or break his company. He promised her he'd only take 10 minutes. She waited in the passenger seat, smiling faintly, tracing raindrops on the glass. "Ethan," she said softly, "if money disappeared tomorrow, would we still have us?" He didn't answer immediately. He was still on the call. That silence, that single heartbeat of hesitation, was all it took. The truck came out of nowhere. Headlights, screech, impact, everything turned. White dot. When Ethan's world faded, he remembered one thing, her scream. Then nothing. When he woke up days later, she was gone. The doctors said she'd survived the crash but slipped into a coma soon after. They couldn't find her after discharge. Her family moved her away, refusing to let him near. He'd tried everything, money, lawyers, connections, but her parents blamed him for everything. He built his empire higher, thinking success would drown the guilt, but every achievement tasted like ash. 3 years passed. Yet every morning he still woke up with her name, echoing in the back of his mind. Until the day his own world went dark. A sudden collapse during a board meeting. Cardiac arrest brought on by stress and exhaustion. He was unconscious for almost a month, trapped between dreams of her voice and flashes of their last night. And when he finally opened his eyes again, a child stood there. She looked barely 3, holding a stuffed bear. Her brown hair fell in soft waves, just like Leela's. The nurse introduced her as Hope. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Hope." She ran to his bedside and said, "Daddy, you finally woke up." He froze. His breath caught in his chest. She spoke like she knew him, like she had been waiting. The nurse smiled awkwardly. "She's been visiting every day. Her mother insisted she stayed close, said you'd understand when you saw her." He whispered, voice trembling. "Her mother?" The nurse hesitated. "She's waiting outside." And then, through the glass window, he saw her. Lila. Alive. Standing in the hallway, holding her breath, her eyes wide, filled with tears she'd been holding back for years. Ethan couldn't move, couldn't speak. The woman he'd lost, the love he'd buried, was standing just beyond reach. And next to her, was the proof that life had gone on without him, his daughter. Ethan sat up in his hospital bed, hands trembling, heart racing faster than the monitors could read. Lila stepped inside slowly, as if walking through a dream she wasn't sure was real. Her hair was shorter now, her face a little older, not tired, but calm. The kind of calm that only comes from surviving something that should have broken you. Neither spoke at first. Only the sound of the rain tapping against the window filled the silence. The same rain that had once carried them apart. "Leela," he finally said, the name breaking from his throat like a confession. She stopped a few steps away. "You look different," she whispered. "You look the same," he replied. Then he looked at the child, their child, coloring quietly on the table near the corner. Hope's tiny voice hummed an innocent tune that shattered him more than any argument could. He didn't need a test. One look, and he knew. She had his eyes, but her smile was all Lila. "How old is she?" he asked. Leela took a breath. 3 years. The exact number of years since the accident. He shut his eyes, guilt burning through every nerve. Why didn't you tell me? Lila turned away. Because you were gone, Ethan. And because when you weren't, you didn't come. He froze. Your parents did what any parents would do when their daughter almost died. She interrupted softly. They protected me. From the world. From you. Her voice didn't carry anger. It carried something far heavier, resignation. Ethan looked at her hand. No ring. Her life, it seemed, had moved on, but her eyes still held the echo of everything they once were. I looked for you, he said quietly. Every day, every lead. I never stopped. She smiled sadly. Sometimes the universe hides what you're not ready to face. He leaned back, eyes on hope again. She deserves to know her father. Lila hesitated. She already knows who you are. I just never told her you were alive. His heart skipped. Alive. Lila sighed, tears finally falling. They told me you didn't make it, Ethan, the hospital, the reports. I buried your name with everything I had left. He stared at her, realizing now that while he had been fighting guilt, she had been fighting grief. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back slightly, not out of fear, but protection. I don't know if I can open that door again, she whispered. I built a world around keeping her safe from pain. You were that pain. Ethan's voice cracked. And you were my reason to live. The tension hung in the air like unspoken history, 3 years of what-ifs, pressing between them. Hope's laughter broke the silence. She ran toward Ethan, holding up a small drawing. Mommy and Daddy and me, she said proudly. Ethan took it gently. Staring at the crooked stick figures, one tall, one small, one smiling between them, a family she had imagined long before it ever existed. He smiled through the tears he couldn't hide. It's beautiful, he whispered. Lila stood in the doorway, watching the two pieces of her heart meet for the first time. Ethan turned to her. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to make things right for her. For us. Lila closed her eyes, torn between love that never died and fear that never healed. Some wounds don't heal by reopening them. Ethan, she said softly, they heal when you learn to live with the scar. He looked down at the drawing again, tracing the crayon lines with trembling fingers. Then let me be part of the scar, he said, and for the first time in years, she couldn't find words. Outside, thunder rolled, the storm returning like memory. But this time, neither of them turned away. Weeks passed. Ethan was discharged, but the world outside felt different. Every decision, every meeting, every polished boardroom suddenly felt hollow. His empire had grown while his life had stood still. And now, the only thing that felt real was a little girl's laugh, echoing down a quiet hospital hallway. He started visiting often, at first under the excuse of recovery sessions. But soon, those sessions became moments he couldn't live without. He'd bring small gifts, books, puzzles, crayons, but Hope always wanted the same thing. Stories. Tell me one about Mommy, she'd say, curling up beside him. So he did. He told her about the reporter who wasn't afraid of anyone, who made the CEO question everything. He told her about the woman who painted his gray world with color, who could turn silence into peace. Lila would listen quietly from the doorway, pretending to check her phone, but her eyes always softened. One afternoon, as sunlight spilled through the window, Hope tugged on Lila's hand. Mommy, can Daddy come home with us today? Lila froze. Her gaze met Ethan's, 1,000 words trapped in a single heartbeat. Not yet, sweetheart, she whispered. Daddy's still getting better. Hope pouted, then hugged Ethan's neck. Then get better fast. When they left that day, Ethan sat alone for hours, replaying every second. The ache of regret was there, but so was something new: purpose. For years, he'd chased wealth. Now he was chasing time, trying to make up for every moment he never got to hold her hand. 2 months later, Lila invited him to Hope's birthday, a small gathering in a quiet park. It was the first time he'd seen them outside sterile white walls. Lila, in a soft blue dress, her laughter mixing with the sound of children running, sunlight weaving gold through her hair. He stood watching from a distance, unsure if he belonged, until Hope spotted him. Daddy, she shouted, running across the grass. Crashing into his arms, he laughed, the kind of laugh that sounded like release. When he looked up, Lila was watching, not smiling, not frowning, just watching. Later, when everyone had left, she approached him slowly. You shouldn't have come without warning, she said. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. He admitted. Silence. Then she said softly, you are, but welcome doesn't mean forgiven. He nodded. I know. The sun dipped lower, the world around them painted in gold and gray. I missed so much, he whispered. I can't change the years we lost, But maybe I can be here for the ones we have left. Lila turned toward him. People don't change overnight. Ethan. He smiled faintly. I didn't. I just finally woke up. Her breath caught the same words she'd said 3 years ago. In another life, another storm. She didn't answer. She only stepped closer. Close enough for him to see the shimmer in her eyes. Don't make promises you can't keep, she said quietly. He met her gaze. This time, I'll make one I'll die keeping. And for the first time, she didn't walk away. Hope ran between them, laughing, pulling their hands together. See? She giggled. Now we're all holding hands. Ethan looked at Lila. Maybe she knows something we don't. Lila smiled soft, hesitant, real. The kind of smile that said maybe time hadn't won after all. That night, as he tucked Hope into bed and watched her drift to sleep, Ethan looked across the room. Lila stood by the window, moonlight on her face, silent tears glistening like the stars above them. He walked up behind her, whispering, I thought I lost everything that night. She turned, eyes shining. Maybe we just had to lose each other to find what really mattered. He reached out, gently brushing her cheek. If I ever fall again, promise me you'll be the one to wake me up. She nodded slowly. Only if you promise not to close your eyes this time. And as the city lights flickered below, Ethan wrapped his arms around the two hearts he once thought were gone forever. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from the past. He was finally living it forward. Love doesn't always end in goodbyes. Sometimes, it just pauses, waiting for the right moment to breathe again. Ethan learned that empires can collapse. Memories can fade, but the heart, it remembers. No matter how far life pulls us apart, the ones meant for us always find a way back, even if it takes years, scars, and a child who carries both your smiles. If this story touched you, remember, forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it rewrites it. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there is still carrying your name in silence. Watch the next story. Because sometimes the next chapter begins where the last heartbreak ends.